Storytime about how my father is obsessed with me. My mom and dad had me when they were very, very young. My mom was 14 years old when she got pregnant with me. From what my mom told me, my parents were pretty much together throughout the whole pregnancy. Even though they were both in high school, they wanted to move in together and try to raise me like a regular family. But my maternal grandmother had a very big issue with this. She wanted my mom to continue going to high school and possibly even give me up for adoption. But my mom was not having it, so she decided to move out with my dad. Once I was born, unfortunately, my parents just couldn't take care of me. My dad was too busy playing his football and trying to get a scholarship. And my mom just didn't really know how to take care of a child. I mean, she was a child herself. This is when my grandmother stepped in and decided to take me in, which I thank God for every single day of my life. My grandmother raised me as her own daughter, and she has been the most amazing woman in my entire life. My parents split up, and through most of my childhood, I lived with my mom and my grandmother. I didn't see my dad for about 10 years. By the time I saw him again, I was 15 years old. I finally saw my father again when I was 15 years old. From the moment he saw me, he wanted to hug me and kiss me all the time. At first, I thought it was normal because he's my father and he hadn't seen me in over 10 years. After a few weeks of him coming to visit me, I started feeling really strange. This was also around the time where I was getting noticed by boys in school. And you know that feeling you get when you know a guy likes you? Well, that's the feeling I started getting from my own father. Every time he touched me, it was like too touchy. And every kiss was just strange. One of the things that really started to bother me was that he liked going to the beach, and he wanted to make it a thing. He would always say, let's go to the beach on the weekend, but I didn't feel comfortable with him. First off, he never invited my mom to come or my grandma, so it was always just me and him. He even took me shopping for bikinis, and this is when my stomach dropped. At the bikini shop, he asked for small bikinis, like the type that show a lot of skin. Told him I wasn't comfortable with that. I wanted a bathing suit. He said no and bought me a thong bikini. He stared at me all day at the beach. After he bought me the thong bikini and forced me to wear it at the beach, I noticed he was staring at me. I wrapped myself in a towel and told him I wanted to leave. After that, I told my mom and my grandma how I felt about my dad. They thought that I was exaggerating, but I knew that I wasn't. My mom asked him to never ever do anything like that again, and he said he wouldn't. After that, he would always do certain things, like stare at me too much, or always want to hug me and kiss me. And for my own comfort and safety, I put a lot of space between him and I. When I was 18, I finally got my first boyfriend. He became enraged when my mom told him. He told my mom that I was acting like a slut. That's when I cut him out completely from my life. A year later, I got on Instagram, and that's when he started following me there. He started leaving strange comments on all my pictures, and eventually he started offering me money to spend more time with him. I told him I wasn't comfortable with him. That's when he told me that all he wanted to do was watch me take a bath, and that he would pay me thousands if I let him. My grandmother and my mom have completely cut him out of our lives. On the day of my wedding, we hired security to keep him away. And of course, he managed to show up, but security kicked him out. I'm thinking I should get a restraining order. Luckily, my mental health hasn't suffered too much from this. He's obviously an unwell person, but I actually feel really bad for him. And I feel like getting a restraining order is just going to make things worse. What the heck should I do?
So one day I come into school and I am being shunned by my whole year group. No one's chatting to me. Everyone's walking past me saying, you're disgusting. How could you do that? People whispering to their friends. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Right, what now? My own friends were coming up to me saying, Angelina, like, this is mad. Like, what have you done? And I'm like, what do you mean? What have I done? You tell me, bruv. I don't know. So apparently this girl has gone around showing everyone her SH, saying that that was because of me, because I've been bullying her. When I heard her name, I said, who's that? I didn't know this chick, yeah, from nowhere. Apparently she was in my form. Never noticed her. Anyway, this turns into a massive scandal, and I am literally being accused by all of the teachers, going into statements, everything. And all my statements are, I don't know what she's talking about, don't know who she is, I ain't done shit, right? Because that was the truth. During this investigation, the whole school is shunning me, yeah? Well, not the whole school, but my year group is shunning me. Moving away from me in lessons, literally not saying a peep to me, giving me dirty looks, all of the lot. I was sitting at break on my own, eating lunch on my own, because it got to the point where my own friends, my best friends at school, wouldn't sit with me, weren't seen with me, like they cut me off for it. It was fucked. My own head of year came over to me and was like, Angelina, you should just tell the truth. Like, it would make this all a lot easier for everyone. I was like, babe, I'm telling the truth. So do you want to calm down a few pecks? Because I'm not owning up to something I didn't do. Like, you must be barking up the wrong tree, darling. It takes about 3 days and it gets taken to my head teacher. And I'm like, yes, brilliant. Take me to her now. I've been dying for this moment because I haven't done shit for once. So it's me, the girl, and my head teacher in the room. Me and her haven't really spoke this whole time, because every time I tried to go up to her to be like, babe, what's the fuck? Like, hello, what are you doing? She would like go bare red in the face. Like, she was obviously like just like a guilty lying person. Like, she didn't want to interact with me because she knew what she was doing. So my head teacher turns to the girl and is like, so what happened and when? So the girl says, Friday break time, Angelina walked past me and called me a fat pig. That's when I saw Jesus Christ himself in the flesh, and I said, yeah, bring up the medical room records, because Friday break time, I wasn't here. It wasn't possible. I wasn't here. So they bring up the medical room records. Guess what? It's in writing. It's in writing. I wasn't there. It was impossible. It wasn't me. So my head teacher turns to her. This girl is so red. Like, she's the colour of this, right? And my head teacher walked into my classroom and made every single girl stand up in a line and one by one walk past me and apologise. So what happens next? I just want to throw out a disclaimer that this girl to this day is denying that she ever lied about anything. So like in her mind, she actually thinks that she was telling the truth and that I actually did these things, which is mental. But anyway, so I didn't really touch base on what happened after she got called out lying in the office in front of my head teacher, like, because that was the best. I've never felt joy like that in my life. Some of you even commented that, like, yes, it was the best feeling of my fucking life. Like, I don't think I'm going to experience that feeling of joy until I give birth and see my child. Like, that's how joyous I felt. I saw the light. Like, that moment, I saw the fucking light. I told you, I saw Jesus Christ in the flesh, darling. So my head teacher essentially turns to her and is like, well, how did you get this wrong? Because you told me that Angelina was supposedly very much up in your face. So someone's very close to you. Like, how do you misread their face for somebody else? Because I didn't explain in the original video, because I only have 3 minutes to talk, that basically she did say that when I said these comments, I was very up in her face. So you already know her face was like this, and her eyes were watering. She was just honestly shattered to pieces. Like, her dance was done in this moment, right? And she was just like, well, it all happened so fast, and I don't remember. I was so sure it was Angelina, but I was obviously wrong. You don't say! She had to apologise to me. She was forced to apologise to me. Then my head teacher actually asked me, like, Angelina, do you forgive her? And I was like, hell no! Hell fucking no! A lot of you wanted to know about the so-called friends that cut me off during this time. So I'm pretty sure I ended up taking them back as friends because I was young and dumb and just overly trusting and too nice. I have story times for days about problematic friendships, right? Toxic trait, overly trusting, end up with absolute nutters as my friends. So lucky for you guys. Follow me, darling. Stay updated with me live, because if you think this is the worst of the stories, this is like a starter. Get ready for the main course, darling. Sit down, get comfortable around here, get to know me. I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Follow me, babe. The girl pretty much got away with it. Like, nothing really happened to her, but she did get forgotten about, like, quite shortly after, because before the situation, before she ever spoke up, she never really spoke. Like I said in the video, I didn't know who she was. She was in my form, and I had never noticed her before. So she had her 5 minutes of, like, attention, and then when it was apparent that she was lying, like, everyone just went back to, like, forgetting about.
I stole my then best friend's wedding cake the day of the wedding. My 28 female, best friend 31 female was supposed to have her wedding in mid-January. It was scheduled to be a very lavish wedding, the theme being blue because she didn't want to have white on white with the snow. My best friend was being quite a bridezilla the days leading up to her wedding, and bridezilla is not quite the word for the day of. She was being a complete bitch for lack of better words. My task, of course, was going to be something simple for someone who had done so much to help me. Her words. This task was very much not simple. The drive to the bakery was a 45-minute trip each way, and the bride suggested I drive slowly to avoid the cake being messed up. So I would have to take a separate route, which would end up being around an hour and 15 minutes on the trip back with the cake. I got up bright and early at 6 a.m. and began the trip shortly thereafter. By the time I got back to the venue with the hotels everyone was staying in, it was about 9 o'clock. So, as I'm unloading the cake, the bride's mom started to look uneasy. I thought it was because it was freezing outside, but she called over my best friend and she went absolutely berserk. Well, somehow, she failed to inform the cake decorator that she would like the cake to be a matching blue color as well. How does one forget to do this? She adamantly denied that she forgot to inform the decorator of the color, but this was only one of many other grievances from the bride that were her own fault, that she very much blew up at and did not acknowledge that they were her fault. My best friend got all up in my face and told me I needed to go back ASAP. I obliged. I made the trip back to the decorator and profusely apologized as I explained the situation. Apparently no big deal on a big wedding day for someone else and a slow day for cake decorator. I FaceTimed with my friend the whole time so she could see how everything was going. She seemed very pleased over the phone and said it was perfect. I paid for the touch-up on the cake out of pocket and left. I got back to the venue at around 12 o'clock. My friend saw the cake being set up and immediately blew up once again. She accused me of swapping out the cake she had seen over the call for a different, shittier version. She didn't even let me get one more word in as she backed me into my car seat and made other people pack the cake in the back. She told me to come back with the correct cake or I would just be cut from the wedding. I took my chances and just drove home. I put my phone on silent and ate the cake with my boyfriend and our families. Nobody knows the real story of why I had a wedding cake randomly on a Sunday night for dinner except for my boyfriend, and I don't feel guilty.
My dad is furious that my mom slept with other people in an open marriage he wanted. My parents got married when they were super young. My dad knocked up my mom, and their parents married them off. My grandfather was able to set up some business for my dad in a big city, and they moved here soon after my birth. My mom grew up in a conservative southern town where she was taught to be a submissive wife. And even after moving to the big city, she didn't spend much time socializing. She had no friends and never went out. My dad was only there to provide for us. He was always away on business, and he wasn't there as a husband for my mom or as a father to me. My dad made a lot of money, so we never lacked anything. Growing up, I became my mom's best friend. We would talk about everything. I pushed her to make friends and to find hobbies. After years of pushing, she started going to a nearby park and made her first friend, a gym trainer. Encouraged by her friend and me, she decided to join the gym. She met a few more people there and started having some semblance of a social life, but she still continued to tell me everything. I think my dad's new secretary gave him the idea, but he asked my mom for an open marriage almost a year ago. He told her he wasn't happy in their marriage and that she wasn't providing him with everything he wanted. My mom, who is a Christian wife, was mortified and told me about the proposal in tears. I suggested she get a divorce, but she said she didn't believe in it and she wouldn't be the one to end their marriage. As my dad pushed, I knew exactly where this would end up if my mom agreed. Her friend and I convinced her. My mom was hesitant at first, but she agreed with the condition that they would be completely transparent with each other. My dad was a middle-aged, 41, man with a belly and my mom, 39, was an athletic woman who worked out regularly. I'm a 22-year woman BTW. I don't know how my dad was so blind or what he thought would happen. I helped create online dating profiles for my mom almost 6 months ago. After getting an insane number of matches, choosing from them and chatting with them for months, my mom started hooking up with a few people. Getting all this attention has provided a massive boost to her confidence and she seems better. My dad hooked up with his secretary almost immediately. He's had very little luck with other ladies. With their transparency thing, my mom tells him about all her hookups. A few weeks ago, my dad screamed at my mom for some minor thing. Usually, my mom would have apologized, but with her new confidence, she didn't back down. It's been constant fights the last few weeks. My dad keeps starting fights by making snide remarks about my mom's clothing or appearance. He almost even called my mom a whore, but stopped himself. I think open marriage finally sunk in. My mom told me he tried to have a conversation about stopping their open marriage, but she immediately shot it down. I think they'll split up. My dad was never there for either of us, but the thought of my parents splitting up still feels weird. I don't feel bad for my dad, but I wish he put effort into his family. I'm happy for my mom though. Update, a few days after my previous post, my dad left our home and had a divorce served to mom in a week. My grandparents didn't know about any of this, but my dad told them when he served the divorce. He also implied to them that my mom was cheating on him. Both sets of grandparents came to our home and started berating my mom. I kept screenshots of all my parents' communications, and my mom showed them to them, and it got way worse after that. Grandparents started fighting each other, blaming each other's children for causing all this. A few days after this, my mom's old church friends came to our home. Back when my mom used to go to church, they used to look down on her for being from a small town. My mom has always been a very caring and non-judgmental person, so she disagreed with their bigotry and they began excluding her from their activities. After she met her gym friends, my mom stopped going to church entirely. These church friends started calling my mom a slut. She kicked them out. My mom is on a cut right now, so she has very defined abs and arms. So along with all the normal stuff getting thrown at her, my grandparents accused her of having a man body, and she also had a lot of random transphobia thrown at her. Her trainer friend has been a great support through all this. She contacted the attorney she used for her divorce, and my mom is spending a lot of time at her house. Turns out the business my dad is running is owned by mom. It was set up by my mom's dad in her name, so it belongs to her. I did not know this until now and assumed that my dad owned it. The whole situation is a huge mess right now. Dad is living in some hotel and my grandparents left yesterday after a week of fighting and trying to force my parents back together. I know there's a lot more divorce drama to come, but I hope it calms down for now. Update 2. My mom's attorney, the one recommended by my mom's gym friend Lisa, has been a great help. She walked my mom through what's going to happen and reassured her. She started looking through the company stuff in preparation for the divorce proceedings, and we found a lot of shocking stuff. I don't know why I was surprised by this, but my dad was having affairs for a long time. He used company resources to book flights and resorts at holiday destinations. There were receipts for many trips with multiple women, spanning the last 10 years. Because he was always absent from our lives, my mom didn't suspect anything. It didn't seem like he made any effort to hide these. He also used the company email to talk to his secretary about the affair stuff. Turns out they were months before my dad asked my mom for an open relationship. This is what we gathered from their emails. After months of their affair, the secretary didn't want to remain a mistress. So, she started pestering my dad to get a divorce. But they wanted my mom to initiate it so that he could get a massive chunk of the company. The secretary came up with the idea of asking my mom for the open relationship. They hoped that my mom would be horrified and ask for a divorce. They were caught off guard when my mom agreed. My dad got jealous when my mom started having sex. After initiating the divorce, he deleted all his emails and told his secretary to do it too. Unfortunately for him, they were still stored the company email server. I haven't seen my dad in over a month. All of his communication has been through his attorney. He apparently wants half the company. My mom's attorneys are still looking for more evidence, but they told us that they don't expect him to get much with the evidence they have. Lisa has been supporting my mom through the whole ordeal. She also got a divorce because her husband cheated on her, so she's been helping my mom a lot.
Am I the asshole for blowing up at my wife for going to her gender reveal appointment without me? My wife and I are expecting our first baby together. We made an appointment to find out the gender of the baby. To me, this is very important. I had hopes for a boy. You probably shouldn't be doing that as a parent. Unfortunately, the day of the doctor's appointment, I had to attend my friend's birthday that I remembered the last minute. I asked my wife if we could cancel the appointment and just go another day, but she looked shocked that I even considered canceling this appointment and going to my friend's birthday party instead. I said I had no choice. She said canceling the doctor's appointment was off the table because the appointments are restricted to a specific time and date, and we can't miss it, so she's just going to go alone. I told her no, because that would be selfish of her. And besides, this will ruin the news of finding out if the baby is a boy or a girl. She cut the discussion and told me to go to the birthday party. Later find out she didn't cancel the doctor's appointment, and she went with her mom instead. I came home seething, and I blew up on her. I started arguing with her about going behind my back and doing this without me. She said it wasn't her fault that I prioritized the party over my child.
Correct.
Yeah.
I told her that I didn't prioritize anything. She literally could have canceled and we would have went another day, but clearly she was trying to steer the fight into a direction where I look like the neglectful and irresponsible one. We fought some, and then she said I'm probably angry with her because it's a girl. She was wrong.
Classic.
She went outside of the room claiming that I was stressing her out.
Okay, yeah.
And now she's acts like I owe her an apology on top of everything else. But I feel upset, and I feel like I was deceived by her. So am I the asshole? He has a little bit of an update here.
Love this.
First off, Jesus Christ, I swear I came here thinking I was somewhat justified in my frustration. But I was wrong, it seems. Although I just want to point out that I did not go to the party without telling my wife and having a discussion with her first. Also, the friend lives 2 hours away. So I had to leave at 2 and the appointment was at 4. So there's no way I could do both. I didn't know she went, and I would have appreciated it if she at least was up front with me about what she was doing. She could have said that she was going anyways, but instead told me to go to the party and had me thinking she was just going to cancel and reschedule the appointment.
Am I wrong for reporting my boss over a nickname? I, 31 female, recently started a new job. It's a 5 guys office plus the boss. The boss is one of those guys who thinks he has a natural charm that ladies would instantly fall for, but he looks like a thumb and has a lot of dumb confidence for making inappropriate comments even when talking to me about work issues. I keep him at arm's length and I'm very professional with my workmates. Some days ago, I was looking after a coworker because he was procrastinating sending me a document. I went to him to make him send it and he said okay, took his phone, opened the Messengers app and sent me a file, but looking at it, I noticed that he saved my number as Jessica Rabbit. I asked him about it, confused, and he looked at me, shocked, eyes wide open, and just said, I'm sorry. I didn't let him go. I interrogated him until he confessed that the boss always calls me Jessica Rabbit. To be clear, I'm naturally a redhead and I got it from my mom, and I dye my hair red when it gets darker, but I don't look like Jessica Rabbit. I'm flat as a table, yes, and I had trust issues about it, and worked very hard to like my body. I despise the thought of being compared to a hypersexualized cartoon character. I talked to my boss when he came into the office and asked about the nickname. He just said, because you both are sexy redheads. I told him to stop it because I don't feel safe, and he said, why are you so angry? It's a compliment. I said it's not and stormed out. I went to HR to do a formal complaint. The HR lady said she'll process the complaint, but that it was worthless because my boss is just like that. I told her that I don't like my boss's attitude and need a warrant to stop. Since then, my boss stopped talking to me, and my workmates say that I'm way too dramatic and don't know how to take a compliment. They also complain that they don't feel safe around me because they don't know if I will twist their words somehow. So, am I the asshole here?
I, 40 male, started to cheat on my wife, 38 female, but stopped halfway through. Do I still tell her? My wife and I have a great relationship. I can't say I have any real complaints. We have been together for 5 years, married for 2 of those, and up until now, I would have said I would never stray. I was away for work last week, and while I was in a hotel, a young woman, 21 female, sat next to me and began to flirt with. I have to admit, it was a real ego boost to be flirted with by someone so young, as I've started to get that middle-aged dad bod. The woman invited herself back up to my hotel room, where we began to have. For me, it was all about the thrill of being desired by someone other than my wife, especially by a very young woman. I was slightly drunk, and I figured I'll probably never get the opportunity to sleep with a 21-year-old again. But the thrill wore off very quickly as I realized that I wasn't enjoying myself. This girl was not good in bed. When I'm with my wife, she's all over me, talking to me and telling me how hot I am, grabbing me, touching me. With this girl, I felt like I could leave the room and she might not even notice, let alone care. And I stopped about 10 minutes into it and asked her to leave, which she did. I didn't. I just took a shower and then called my wife to hear her voice. Now I'm back home, and so far I haven't told my wife about any of it. Why should I torpedo our happy marriage and cause her pain for something I didn't even enjoy and will never do again? Should I tell her or keep it to myself? We have an update. I really took a beating from Reddit when I made my first post. I was still not sure whether to tell my wife what happened or not after making the post. This is not because I'm selfish, like some of you said, but because I was struggling to find the logic in telling her something that would hurt her when she didn't need to know because it was never going to happen again. It didn't end up mattering because my wife realized something was up a few days after I got back from my work trip. She brought up how I'd been quiet and seemed off ever since getting back, and she looked and sounded so worried about me that I decided in the moment to tell her. I didn't want us to have any secrets from each other. She didn't believe me at first. She believed I'd started to sleep with the other woman, but not that I had stopped or that the was bad. I showed her the Reddit post I made so she could see I wasn't just spinning her a flattering story to try and get off the hook. She started to cry while reading it, then said the sentence that has been going around my head 24/7 since. I loved you so much. Loved. Past tense. In the space of a few minutes, I had gone from the love of her life and the man she wanted to grow old with to just another sad man having a midlife crisis. We talked for most of the night, but she wouldn't budge. She turned down my offer of marriage counseling or counseling for just myself. I suggested we take a short week's break so she can think about things, but her mind is made up. We are filing for divorce, and in the meantime, I am sleeping in our spare room so she can remain in our marital bed. This is not how I wanted any of this to go. Our connection is too strong to be destroyed by 30 minutes of poor decision making.
I, 26 female, have been with my fiance Chris, 26 male, for 4 years now. He and his sister, 21, Lilac, are very close. They had a pretty traumatic childhood and always promised each other to be there no matter what. Lilac is a good sister to him, but as a person, truthfully, I can't stand her. She is literally the textbook definition of a bubbly blonde. She is overly charismatic, always giggling, and in general, just acts too immature for my taste. She likes to pull pranks every once in a while on my fiance, and he gets her back, but the whole ordeal just seems childish and obnoxious to me. Ever since we got engaged, I knew that I didn't want her in my wedding party because that means I'd have to spend time with her at my bachelorette and other parties. Fast forward to last night, and my fiance asked me when I plan on asking Lilac to be my bridesmaid. I got quiet and truthfully said that I didn't plan on doing so. This upset him because he said he wants his sister to be part of the most important day of his life, and that if I didn't do it, then he was going to have to make her a groomswoman to make sure that she's included. I can't lie, this set me off. I went off about how I want to feel respected by him and be able to enjoy my wedding day. He said he also wants to enjoy his day, which, to be fair, I understand. This is where I may be in the wrong. I told him that I have always disliked his sister and wish that he would just not include her for once on the day that isn't even about her. He got quiet and went into the guest room to be alone. A couple minutes later, I got a text from Lilac saying that she completely respects my decision not to have her in the wedding party, but she's hurt to know what I actually feel about her. I didn't want her to find out at all, and now he's told his whole family about our argument. Half of them are attacking me, and half of them are saying that it's my day, so I should be able to enjoy it. Honestly, this whole ordeal is just stressful for no reason because Lilac isn't even upset I don't want her in my wedding party, yet the whole family is upset and my fiance has been very short with me all day. Am I in the wrong for accidentally telling my fiance I hate his sister and that she won't be part of my wedding party?
The man that stalked my girlfriend today is in for a surprise. Today, my girlfriend 19F and I 19F went to Home Depot to buy some supplies for home project. While walking into the store, I was blissfully unaware of the van that changed its course a full 180 degrees from leaving the parking lot, to returning to the parking lot, to parking, to expelling a 50-some-year-old man. I won't go into the particulars of his appearance as it is irrelevant, and I mean not to shame those with his features, but he just looked like a sleaze. After about 20 to 30 minutes of browsing and picking things out, my girlfriend leaned to me close and said, "I don't mean to freak you out, but someone is following us." I feel like a doof cause I hadn't noticed in the slightest. He was keeping his distance and was careful to stay just out of my view. I asked how she was sure and she said he parked his car to follow us in and has been peering through the shelves at us since we arrived. Once I finally spotted him, I became conscious of him lurking in down the aisle a dozen meters away, looking between the shelves, peering around displays, ect. At some point a nice elderly lady who was shopping for similar items pointed out a cheaper product to me, and as I walked a few steps to look at the price tag, the man swooped in, handed my girlfriend a note, and left without me even being aware of him being there yet. Weirdest thing is, I'm even known for being observant, and it took him being pointed out to me for I to notice. The note stated something along the lines of how he really likes her and that she is so pretty that she should smile more. EU. Also, she was wearing a mask, so what does it matter? He left his number at the bottom of the note saying to call him. Now this is where it should have ended, right? This is where his last thread of dignity should have told him to hit the road, right? Well, no. Because he proceeded to stalk her for the next 30 minutes as we finished up shopping. Every time I started in his direction, hoping to get close enough to tell him off, he would simply vanish. My girlfriend kept telling me not to confront him as she feared he would turn aggressive towards me, so I compromised with convincing her to let me tell an employee. Now this employee happened to be a mom, so she instantly went protective mode, told us to stick around so that he can't follow us out where we'd be more vulnerable. We showed her the note, containing phone number, and she got a smile saying her shift ends in 30 and that it would be rude to keep the gentleman waiting on a call. I feel a bit smug that he expected a call from a sweet young college student and instead he got a call from an angry black lady ready to fight God. I can practically hearing her tear into him now. Thank you so much, Home Depot employee. I doubt you'll see this, but I really appreciate you looking out for others.
Guess where I was this morning?
Where?
In the hospital.
Seriously?
Oh my God. I've had a little bit of tingy pain in my right side.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a cyst. Or Corey was like, that's where your appendix is. You need to go get checked out. And I was like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. Well, I woke up this morning and it was bad. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to the hospital. The doctor was straight up like, it sounds like appendicitis. I'm going to be honest with you. And he's like, well, we're going to do a CT scan and then we're going to do an ultrasound. We're just going to check out a bunch of things. The doctor comes in and he's like, well, so we figured some stuff out. And I was like, great, let's hear it. He's like, first of all, your appendix didn't show up on the CT scan. And I was like, where is it? I feel like, why are we not more concerned about that? What? But he goes, but there's no inflammation where your appendix should be, so that's good. And I was like, I don't like that we're just glossing over this, that my appendix is missing. I've always had it.
Is it gone still? Did they ever find it?
They never. Well, that's the thing. He was just like, but it'll be fine. There's no inflammation where it should be, so that's what we look for. It was basically like, we couldn't find it, so you're probably good. And I was like, I don't love that that's my answer. But basically he was like, we can't find it, so we don't know. And we're like, on your ultrasound, though, you do have cysts on your ovaries. You have one, like a dime-sized one, and then you have fluid all throughout your, like, pelvic region, which means that one just burst. And I'm like, yeah, I feel that. He goes, funny thing, though, when we looked, the ultrasound tech spotted, noticed a spot in your right lung. And I was like, huh? That's a fucking sentence I never want to hear in my life. So, yeah. He goes, but your white blood cell count's good, so we're not too worried right there. It's like, I mean, if you would have a cough or a cold, I would think it was pneumonia. And I was like, I have a horrible cough right now. And he's like, you do? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you have pneumonia. So not only was I there for that, but I fucking have pneumonia right now.
Oh my God.
I know.
You're out here, you got no fucking appendix, you have a cyst that just burst, and now you got pneumonia.
All on my right side. What the f is going on?
Am I the drama?
Is it me? Like, what the f? My organs are disappearing.
God. Do you think maybe you got, like, taken by aliens?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hey, if you do CT scans and stuff, is that, like, normal for, like, just organs not to show? What else can go wrong?
Yeah.
It's a wrong thing to say.
Don't fucking tempt the universe.
No. But yeah, so
I am on pain medicine, but
good.
I haven't had it in a while. That's why I'm allowing myself an alcoholic beverage because I haven't taken the pain medicine so I could drive here.
Right.
And now I'm in pain.
It's a medicinal White Claw.
Medicinal